Hi, I'm Kelly Greene. I'm pastor of Westgate Free Will Baptist Church in Shawnee. You know, in John chapter 2, it has the story of Jesus turning water into wine. And it says that on the third day, a third day after some events that had already taken place, that there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and that the mother of Jesus was at the wedding, and both Jesus and his disciples were invited, and that when the wine ran out, that Jesus' mother came to him, and she said to him, "They're out of wine." And Jesus' response is very interesting. He says, "Woman, what does that have to do with us? And it is not my time yet." It seems like Jesus might be referring there, he doesn't say mother there. Are you catching that? He says woman. I can't help but think that maybe he's reminding her that he's got another parent who really kind of calls the shots on things such as miracles and things like that he takes his directions from her, because I'm guessing that the form in which she said it was probably, you know how when a parent makes a request, it's not exactly the same as when other people make a request. They're used to you doing it. So he's trying to remind her that there's a larger context here, and she seems to back off from that. And she says to the servants, she says, "Whatever he says, do it." Now there were 6 water pots, and these water pots were for the Jewish custom of purification. They would do these washing rituals a lot, and they did a lot of them, and they had a lot of this water hanging around to do these things in, because no Jew wanted to be caught without having plenty of water to do the proper rituals. Well, Jesus says, "I want you guys to fill these water pots with water." Doesn't seem all that miraculous, does it? But they go ahead and says that they fill them up to the brim. And then Jesus says, "Take some out now and take it to the head waiter." And they take it out and they take it to the head waiter. And the head waiter, when he has tasted the water which has now been turned into wine, and he doesn't know where it has come from, but the servants who had drawn it out, they know where it came from. But so he doesn't talk to the servants. He's a little bit confused here. He calls for the bridegroom. And he says to the bridegroom, you know, every man, whenever he's having a wedding, he serves the good wine first, and he serves after everybody has drank freely. It says, then he serves the poorer wine next. He says, "But you have saved the good wine for now." Well, there's a lot that can be said throughout this passage, and I've always found this passage actually pretty hard to preach, actually. It seems like you would think that would be one of the more simple sermons that a pastor would have to preach. But the truth is that it's a little bit difficult for me, and I really had to stop. I had to clear my head and figure out, okay, Kelly, what's going on here? What's going on down? Break it down to its parts. And so what I did is I thought, let's get down to the water and wine. The water is like wine. It can be consumed. They are similar. It can quench your thirst, I suppose, and they're both for drinking. So they have similar attributes. But water is not wine. But Jesus here has done a miraculous thing in that he's changed the very essence of this thing into something similar to what it was before. But it's really, really different, particularly if you experience it for yourself. And I thought to myself, this has got to be talking about what it is when you give your heart, soul, mind, and strength to Christ. When you open up the empty hands of faith to receive what he has done on the cross, when he took every single sin that you have done and took them on the cross with him, and he died instead of you. He died in your place. And 3 days later, he rose again from the dead, and he ascended to heaven and sits at the right hand of the Father. Well, I'm thinking this, when I hear this, maybe we're just like plain old water. And when Jesus changes you, you're similar. You know, people meet you, you look the same. There's same thing, I still got my Oklahoma redneck accent, and when I go to New York, they'll probably still call me Tex like the last time. But so there's similarities, but the taste of someone like this, the experience of them, is radically different than what they were before. They were common before. They were similar to a lot that's out there. And then they were changed in their nature to something. Now, I don't know about you, but I like the idea that my nature can stand a chance to really change. And this is a type of change that is radical. The type of changes you can't do on your own that you wish you could, but you can't. What do you do whenever there's change that's got to take place in you and it's connected to the very essence of who you are? The truth is, you can't. But Jesus can change you, just like water was water, and it was always water from the creation, and that's its nature. But Jesus can take something that's water and say, I'm just water. And he changes its very nature into something that it wasn't before. Some people can say, well, I was born with an addictive personality. Or, you know what, I think that I was born with a propensity towards alcoholism and all these different things. True or not, even if it's at the uttermost, where you have an utter predisposition to whatever horrible thing it might be, Jesus Christ changes the essence into something that is a totally new, wonderful experience. And that's why it's wine. It is connected with the sense of celebration in the context of this wedding. If they had just served up all this wine to these people, it wouldn't have seemed like a big deal to them. Matter of fact, it would have been a disaster at a wedding. But with it being wine of this particular nature, it's a major celebration. That is the similarities here between you and water and wine. But also I want to say one other thing. This guy knows his stuff, this head waiter. And when he tastes this, and here's what I believe. It's not in the passage, but I believe that the first wine, I believe that the bridegroom did do it the way he was supposed to. I think that he did serve the good wine at first. But when this wine, which was water that Jesus transformed, when this delicious vintage hits the taste buds of this head waiter, suddenly the wine that was produced by men, before that what they would have perceived as the good stuff, it is insignificant compared to the quality that is presented by what Jesus has changed. What's that mean? I believe it means this. I believe that it means that compared to the best that you can do with the efforts of mankind, at the very best, it may seem very impressive to us. The things that we can achieve in this world through power and money and prestige can be very impressive, and it can seem like you're tasting really good wine. Or it can seem through different sexual experiences, or different drug experiences, or just whatever particular thing you have in your life that you think is what makes your life have a particularly good flavor. Compared to what Jesus would give you, it will make that seem like it was just regular old stuff. Now, this is something I want to bring up. If you look back at an interesting passage, back in Genesis 18, 19, and 20, we have the fall of Sodom and Gomorrah. And in that fall, we have Lot's wife, and him and his whole family are escaping from the destruction that's coming on this city. And as they're escaping, they're warned not to turn back. They're warned not to look back at Sodom and Gomorrah. But Lot's wife just couldn't see a great future. She just couldn't see it. She could not see that it would be better in a bright future somewhere away from what was in the past of Sodom and Gomorrah. But what you need to know, that when you look back at your past and the best that mankind could give you, it will pale in comparison to what Christ will give. And when you have given your heart to Christ, you're a person of the future. You look back at your past, there's not much there to look at compared to what Christ gives you. And you can know for certain what was back there will never compare to what Jesus serves up at the end. I'm Kelly Greene, And I'm pastor of Westgate Church here in Shawnee. And I ask that the Lord bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you and lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.